Hi everyone, this is Julie Bruns. Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities podcast. I want you to thrive and be happy, peaceful, and content, no matter where you are on your journey. This podcast shares stories that will show you how it can be done, no matter what your circumstances. You'll be inspired and come away with a new spark of an idea. Never forget, anything is possible. New episodes are released every Wednesday. Subscribe, rate us, and leave us a review. This helps others find our content and get happier sooner. To possibility and beyond. All right, welcome everyone to this episode of the Peace and Possibilities podcast. My guest this week is Kristin Cripps. And Kristin and I have never actually spoken until today, but I came across her book. Kristin, I think it was earlier in the summer. It may have been even earlier in the year, but I think it was over the summer. And I'm trying to remember, like, if someone sent it to me or if I found it online accidentally, one of those.
Right.
I don't believe in accidents anyways. I feel like things come to you when you want them, right? So I can't remember if I found it on my own or if someone sent it to me. But I started reading your story about just kind of like the rags to riches kind of, theme, and how cool it was. You became this entrepreneur at a young age. And I think I reached out to you earlier in the year or someone on your website, and I didn't hear back. And then I may have followed up, and finally someone connected. But I made a mental note. I'm like, I want to get her on my podcast. You have a very cool story. I don't know all of it, so I'm happy you're here. And so the book I came across is called Shepreneur, like entrepreneur with a she in front of it, like that, right?
Yeah.
And it's all about your journey into how you came to do the work you're doing. And I just was inspired. I was like, it reminded me a little of my story because I didn't come from a lot either. It was kind of like trying to figure out my life. And I just remember being impressed by you. And I wanted to talk to you and find out more about how you got to where you are. So thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm sorry nobody wrote back to you before.
Oh yeah, that's not even I feel like I did, and it may have just been a one little thing, and I never followed up, and it was just like I just kind of put it out there in the universe, and it didn't come back, and then I think I followed up and I got something. So I probably didn't put a ton of effort, but it was just like I want this to happen, and then I didn't follow up. So no worries.
Worked out.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about. First of all, now that I'm writing my own book, I want to know a little bit more about that too at some point. But when you started, so tell everyone about your journey, like what you do now and how you got to this spot in your career, in your very successful career. Let's start there.
Sure. So I don't really have like one set thing that I do. I get bored quite easily. But I own a real estate brokerage in Ontario, and I do property investments, and then I also do development. So I build, a group of homes and so forth, and do flips and stuff. And then I do public speaking. My next book's out next Tuesday, actually. And so that's kind of like the gist of it. I love decorating. I love, travel and so forth. So I was like, I can travel as I speak, doing my speaking, my friend says across the pond or whatever. So go wherever. And I love decorating, which hence the houses and staging and selling real estate and developments and so forth. And then the book, and to be honest, the book that you found was not even, I was writing the second one that comes out next week, but because throughout the process, people kept asking me, because I was more about investments, because that's what I know. Like they'll say, well, are you going to stop when you get 10 houses or 20 houses or 30 houses or whatever? But at first, when they find out that, they think it was because I married somebody with money or I came from money or whatever. But then when they realized it wasn't from that, then they started to ask more questions. How did she do this? How did she do that? And that's kind of, like with my publisher, we ended up like sidetracking and doing that book first, because that was where more interest seemed to come from.
See, that's so funny. Like, what's the phrase is like, just make plans and then see how people, not people, but the universe, God laughs at you or whatever. It's funny that you were like intent to do this other thing, which I'm excited to hear about. But then this, like, why not go down that road? People are asking about, why not give them the information?
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So now you have a second book.
Yeah, it's Investpreneur. So
okay,
it's
cool.
all about buying houses, flipping, getting into real estate. So you don't have to wait till you're retired to live your best life, and some people can't even live their best life when they're retired. Do you know what I mean? They don't have that much money. but not everybody gets to retirement, unfortunately, health and what have you. So I want people to like live basically like little mini retirements their whole life, and real estate can fund that. So they're investing in real estate can fund that. So it's all about that. So whether it's short term or long term, it goes over all of the ins and outs and so forth. So.
That's a great idea. And you're right. It's part of my, because I just turned 51 this year, and it's like, I don't want to, who wants to wait till they're 65 or 70 to start living their best life, like you said.
Absolutely.
And that's when you're tired and you're sore, and you don't have energy to do all the stuff you want to do.
Right?
Why not do it earlier? I love that you're doing that now and showing people how it can be done when they're younger, and having more options instead of just like waiting their whole lives to enjoy it. Yeah.
Happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you.
I just see it so much in real estate. Like I've been top 1%, say, since 2012 or whatever in Canada. But so I see all these people, and they get to retirement and they have their one house, right? And they're like, okay, I have 2 or 3 kids. I want to give them each a little bit of money. That gives me a little bit of money to like buy another place or whatever, or buy a car or something. But they don't have any excess. And it just breaks my heart, because I want them to do more, and I want them to be able to, whether it's for them their whole life or to give to people they care about their whole life or charities their whole life, but they most people don't have that option, right? So I don't like that, obviously. And then a lot of people, even if they are doing a bit better, they don't put themselves on the, I say, like the back burner or whatever. So they put themselves on the back burner, but they put other people, like they burn the candle at both ends. They want their kids to have their best lives and live their dreams, but they don't want to live their own dreams,
Right.
So I want them, yes, their kids to have their best lives too, but I want them also to have their best lives, because that's a good example for their children, right? Like,
of course,
their kids never see them falling on their face and then getting up again and trying again. Then why are their kids they're never going to want to try anything either, because they're like, well, we have to play it safe like mom and dad played it safe, like, but if they see them going after their dreams and their goals, then they're more likely to go after theirs as well.
That's so true. Also so important that you're pointing that out, because it's like, no matter how much you prepare for your own lives, you're responsible for your own lives. And so I have kids too, they're 18 and 23. So we're responsible for making them equipped to handle their life and be successful. We're not supposed to be handing them things so that they can be successful. We're supposed to be showing them how to do it. And you can show it, like you said, model it, do it your way, and then see, this is what I did. We're doing the same thing with our kids now, teaching them how to be more financially responsible with their stuff that we didn't learn, my husband and I, when we were younger. But so many parents are like, well, I want to help my kids. It's like, but they have the rest of their lives to help themselves. If you start helping them now in your midlife and later, you're not going to have anything left for yourself.
Yeah, and then they don't appreciate it anyways, right? Like they don't get it. So
because they didn't have to earn it. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple of people right off the top of my head that are really going to be excited, that are the younger generation that'll be excited to learn more about it too. It's so important that you're doing it now to show people for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years what you can have, instead of like waiting till the end. So kudos to you.
Thanks. Yeah. I like them that they say like bucket list, right? Like people say what's in your bucket list, but it's like tacky, but I like people to check off their bucket list before they kick the bucket. You know what I mean? So
that's not tacky. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, if you wait to do everything till you're 65 or 70 and you have a bucket list of 50 things, you might not even have enough time to do it. And who's to say you're even going to live that long?
I know.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Kristin. Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are doing all these really cool things, but when you were younger, I mean, you didn't go to school to do what you're doing now, correct?
Yeah. Like as in real estate, or as in, like, I never went to school for business. I've never been to university, or I guess you guys call it college or whatever. Yeah. So what we call college is, I think you guys call community college. So I went to community college, but I didn't go. I went to school for real estate because it's online and it's different and so forth. But when I was a kid, I wanted to be a surgeon, a plastic surgeon.
Oh wow!
And then I moved out when I was 16 and realized I didn't like homework. So I started to look at shorter professions like schooling. Mm-hmm. And my grandma was quite spiritual. And so we'd always like have these pretend days, and we'd like fly off to these different clouds. And like on one cloud, she'd be like, okay, this is the massage cloud. So I'd massage her. And then on this other cloud, this is the meditating cloud and whatever. So she said, why don't you do massage school? So I looked up how long it was, and it was like a year and a half. So I was thinking, okay, graduate when I'm 30 being a plastic surgeon, or graduate when I'm like 18, 19 and be a registered massage therapist. So that was what I did back then.
Wow. That's so cool that your grandma was like trying to help you figure it out too. Because sometimes we don't have people around us to help us figure it out, or like to ask the right questions.
Yeah, for sure. I think she came from a different time too, right? Like wartime and whatever. So she wasn't able to go after what made her happy. She just had to go after what she had to do and like live where was safe to live. And do you know what I mean? So she saw an opportunity in me for me to live a life that I wanted to live and so forth. But in the end, I realized I didn't actually like massage.
Okay.
But I did stay in it too long because I was like, okay, it costs this amount of money for college. And so therefore I have to stay in it. But then eventually I was just like, I don't care how much it costs, or I don't care, I'm like, I'm going to do what I want to do and what makes me happy. It doesn't matter. So it took me a while to figure it out, but then I changed directions. So
Little by little, you started investing like on your own, or did someone teach you how to do it? Or were you just like, okay, I'll just buy a house and flip it? Or
yeah, I just did it on my own. I was always dating people. I was basically one of those people that went relationship to relationship. And whoever I was with would say, because lots of times, basically till I was 30, I had 3 jobs. So they're like, you already have 3 jobs. Investing is going to be like a 4th job. And so nobody wanted me to do it. And then family would tell me horror stories and other people would tell me horror stories. So I just never got into it, not never, but back then. But then I kept seeing these houses go up and up, right? So I'd see a house that was 130 and then suddenly it was 350 and then it was 420 and whatever. So I was listening to all these people working my 3 jobs and using the extra money that I had from these 3 jobs to buy cars. My cars are going like worth nothing, they're getting lower and lower every year, but then these houses are getting higher and higher. So eventually I just decided to stop listening to people and to do it. And it's not like there isn't good people to listen to there. There absolutely, of course, is. But I was listening to people that didn't own more than one house themselves and had never had a renter and had never had a multiplex or so I just wasn't listening to the right people.
right.
But I was young, right? So I didn't know, I don't even know when podcasts came out and stuff. I think like, people would blog first and then there was podcasts, but back then there wasn't podcasts, right? And so I just didn't know, and I wasn't reading books on things either, so I just did it trial and error. So I was like, if I lose money investing in houses, oh, well, I'm already losing money buying vehicles.
Yeah.
So what could go wrong basically, and it didn't go wrong. There's always like little bumps in the road, but the gain in it is much higher. So
For sure. And I love what you said about like, so you're listening to people, but you were listening to the wrong people, and you were listening to people who didn't have what you wanted. So you were like, and they probably wanted the best. They probably were just doing it because they thought it was the right thing to say to you. But it's like, yeah, don't do that. You're not going to be successful. It's like, well, but you don't have that either. And I'm working my butt off, working 3 jobs. What's one more? If I can potentially be exponentially, wealthier with this money that I could, that would grow. And you knew in the back of your head, you kept asking the questions or telling people, and people kept saying no to you. But I love that you followed your heart eventually, and you said, I'm doing it. And so what if it's money? So what if it's a risk? You're risking all these other things anyways. Might as well try the thing you really want to try. I can totally relate to that. And I think if more people did that when they were scared younger, I'm not saying like every little thing you want to do is worth risking, silly things for. But more often than not, if you believe in it hard enough, you're going to be able to make it happen. Just go talk to the people that are going to help you make it happen. And the people that they're making their suggestions based on probably love for you. But what you really want to know is like, tell me I can do it. And if you can't see me doing it, help me figure out how I can do it. And that's what we say to our kids. It's not like you probably won't be able to do it. It's like, that sounds like it's going to be a lot of work. Are you ready for the work? Like, let's see what you got. It's more encouraging. Yeah. But I'm so glad that you had enough of your own to do it.
Yeah. And I know they love me and I love them, but some of them took offense. Like I had one person she didn't actually call me, she called my stepmother, bawling her eyes out because she's in the book, but nobody knows who it is. But she's bawling her eyes out, saying that, oh, she thinks I'm stupid and she thinks whatever. I don't think she's stupid at all. It just wasn't the right person to be getting advice from. But she was so upset. And I ran across somebody the other day that knew that person and had read the book. and had no idea like that there was any turmoil in there, but she just thought that I was upset with her and whatever. And I think she's lovely. And I think like anybody that was giving me advice wasn't doing it, to harm me or whatever.
Yeah.
They were just giving the best advice that they could, which wasn't necessarily the best for me in the goals that I had. Right. But, yeah, you just,
Yeah. So you just kept going for it, and then you bought something, invested in it, and then it just snowballed one thing after another, and you figured it out as you were going.
yeah, I listened to people though probably for about 9 years. And then I was like, okay, I'm not listening anymore. And because I would put offers on properties, but I'd back out in the home inspection. I'd bring all these people, that I cared about their opinion and whatever. And then nobody ever said yes to buy it. Right. So I'd always back out. And then I just started to put offers on properties, not tell anybody. And then I'd tell them after I bought it. So it just happened that way.
You figured out like the right way to do it. I'm going to do this instead.
Yeah.
I've done some similar things. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I'm very glad that you're writing a book and teaching people how to do it instead of just, there's obviously there's a lot of advantages in figuring things out on your own, but why not help people along the way a little bit? Give them the knowledge and give them the right thing to think about instead of just like, you can't do that. And here's why.
Yeah. And I know people want like the fast answer. And like I say that in the book, like there's still research, there's still work to do. You're not just buying a house for 400,000, putting 50,000 into it, and you're selling it for 2 million. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So some people will just say, they'll like text me and they're like, well, what's the Coles Notes version? Like, tell me in 10 minutes what I should do, like what the book says. I'm like, I can't tell you in 10 minutes. Like there's so much like whether it's that or it doesn't have to be mine. Like obviously there's tons of stuff on YouTube or other books or whatever. You just have to do the homework yourself and see what works for your marketplace and so forth, right? Like, but people just
still have to do the homework.
Yeah, they want to snap their fingers and have a private jet in their backyard and.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
But most of the people that have those things didn't snap their fingers. Either someone handed it to them because they were super wealthy, or they worked at it. And it's not frustrating, but it's silly to think that you could take all of your experience and all of those years of you working your butt off and investing and learning on your own, and then say in 10 minutes, oh, here's what I did. It's like, it was not easy. You wouldn't have waited till you were, 30 to do it. You've done it. Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me, so along the way you are working your butt off, you're working 3 jobs, you're going to invest, you're going with your gut and you're doing the thing that you want to do. Along the way, you had to have been stressed out working all of that time and like figuring out what you wanted, where you could make money and all of that. What were you doing along the way to stay peaceful and happy and content? Like, or were you just stressed out the whole time until you figured out your life?
I'm not a stressful person. Like I don't get stressed. So I could be out for sushi, for example, with my friend, and somebody calls and they're like, hey, your rental house just burnt down, or your triplex just has 2 feet of water in the basement or whatever. I'm like, oh, that sucks. And then I just text and call people because I'm not a firefighter. I can't put the fire out, right? I don't know anything about plumbing that I can like fix the weeping tiles or whatever made the basement flood. All I can do is call or message people that can do it. I'm like, message 3 or 4 people, see who responds first, have them to the property. Like I don't stress, but I need to have like my outlet. So I'm a super social person. So I like to have my dinners with my friends. I love dancing. So I like to dance. I like to salsa, whatever. I love spoiling like my nephews and nieces and I call them little people in my life. So like I have a little sister or whatever who's now has her own child. It's not little anymore, but so like spoiling her and like doing the kid stuff that as you're an adult, you kind of stop doing, especially if you don't have kids. Like you're not doing those fun things anymore, but so I like spoiling them and doing that. But also like teaching them lessons along the way. Like I'm not just saying, oh, I'm giving this all to you and you never have to work a day in your life.
Right.
Like I made my sister buy a house, that one that I mentioned, I made her buy a house when she was 18. And basically from like 15 on, I like showed her what would happen. Like, I'm like, if you do this, you like go on trips with your friends, you buy this car, you blah, blah, you have a car not worth any money. Or not any money, but less money, have a couple, some pictures and memories and maybe some tattoos you don't like anymore or whatever. Like if you buy this house, and I show them. So yes, I still spoil them, but I show them what they can do. And then I show them that they can spoil people that they love too, or charities or whatever, or give back by, doing certain steps in their life. So I have fun with them and spoil them, but also like give them lessons too. It's not just all like spoil,
Yeah.
do anything because Auntie Kristen will take care of you. Like
I
you
love
have to
that.
do other stuff. Yeah.
You're
So,
doing all that. It sounds like it's a great outlook too. It's like you can help them. Handing everything on a silver platter, not ever talking about it's not going to be helping them figure it out on their own, right? And
yeah.
you can give with your whole heart and still be helping them to a degree. So it's awesome that you're doing it that way. And yeah, that's great because also they're probably gonna. Well, I have nieces and nephews too. I mean, I have my own kids, but you never know what's sticking. You never know what the parent's saying, and they look
Yeah,
at it differently from you than they would their mom saying it to them.
for sure.
So yeah, it's great that they have the extra set of guidance from someone, also someone who's been there, not just a random, like you said, here's what I have, and isn't this cool? I have
Yeah.
all this stuff. Instead of looking at you and being like, because they're probably thinking
Yeah.
that and just not asking those questions right now. But
Yeah.
that's awesome. You're paying it
Yeah.
forward. That's cool.
Okay. Yeah, I have
Yeah.
I do this like I do multiple parties a year. Obviously with COVID, they've changed. But one of the people that showed up to them, her little boy, so she came up and told me after. So he's, I guess, really inquisitive and asking all these questions. And he's like, so if I work really hard and I save my money and I whatever, I can, throw parties like this and be the princess that Kristen is. And she's like, Kristen's not a princess. She's like, well, he's like, how does she throw these parties if she's not a princess? But so he's just seeing, okay, if I work hard, like, because he knew me back before, obviously he's just a little boy, but he's almost a teenager. So he knows when I didn't have what I have now, so he's like, so if I do this, then I can, so it's not like, oh, Kristen bought a lottery ticket and she got it, okay, Kristen hustled and Kristen worked and Kristen learned from things. And even if you like try 100 things and only 5 of them work, if you tried none of those things, then 0 worked, right? Like at least
Right.
you tried. And otherwise I feel like you get to the end of your life and you're like, oh, I wonder if that would have worked. I wonder if that would have helped anybody. I wonder if that would have succeeded. You never know. So at least I know maybe it worked, maybe it didn't, but at least I tried.
I know. I couldn't agree more. That's awesome. That's awesome that they're figuring out. It's so fun to see like their little brains like calculate things and have these realizations. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
And
so
especially the different ages too.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So tell me about advice you would have for someone asking, so they're 22, they just graduated college, university, they're 35 and they're like, I don't know what I want to do and I can't figure it out. I thought I wanted to do this and I changed my mind. What would you say to the people that are struggling to find meaningful work and be successful? And
sorry, you said 22 and 35. They're 22 or 35 or what?
Either. So no matter what age they are, like
yeah,
they're struggling to figure out what they want to be doing and maybe they're
Okay, so one is not to stay in something just because, like I did, like, oh, just because you went to school for or whatever, but don't quit right off the get-go. Like my sister, for example, in that house example, she quit 2 weeks before she got possession of that house and they pulled financing because they called around and she didn't have that job anymore. So don't like, oh, I don't like it, I'm just going to quit, because you still have like rent or a mortgage or car payments or all of the, above or whatever. So don't just suddenly, oh, I don't like it, I'm going to quit. Like you need whatever job to pay your bills for a bit, but then you can look into other things. Like obviously we all have different interests. Maybe you paint, maybe you crochet, maybe you love to teach languages, or you want to travel around the world and be like a foodie and write, articles for whatever, blogs or something. So whatever it is that you like to do for hours and hours and like, you don't care right now if you get paid for it, you literally just love to do it and spend your time doing that. And then search, whether you're just looking on Google or you're looking on YouTube and you're just looking up other things and what people are doing. So you can see, okay, this is how, because there's tons of stuff online. So it could be like how I made $1,000 in a week, vlogging for my crochet thing, or there's tons of stuff. So they can do tons of stuff for free. And then they can take courses once they have a bit of money saved, but they don't just suddenly quit their job and go after this other thing. They build that up, right? Like so many people say they work 9 to 5, but like they'll say, well, how did you do this? Well, I did work 9 to 5 at one job. Well, actually it was 9 to 4, but then I had another job 5 to 10 and I had another job 11 to 3. And I'm not saying they have to do all that, but they could do the 9 to 4 and the 5 to 10 or 11, or even if it's just 2 hours after their kids go to bed or whatever, they're working on, whatever. I have a friend that she does makeup, but like really neat, like makeup for movies and crazy, whatever, but she wants to do it for a movie. She doesn't currently, but so when her kids go to bed, she does all these tutorials, and people are starting to, write in and send her makeup and say, hey, can you show that you use this eyeliner? Can you do this? Or, and then she does stuff for free for people, whether it's Halloween or whatever. So you have to put yourself out there first, and you can't just think, oh, blah, blah, photographer, or blah, blah, makeup artist makes, I don't know how much they make, but 5,000 a day or 10,000 a day. You can't do that. Obviously, you have to put yourself on the line and do things for free first. So that's why you have your job in the day, so you can still feed yourself. Right? But then you do all these other things on the side, and to see what you like, and you might decide, you know what, I don't really like the whole makeup world or fashion world or whatever you're trying to go after, but at least you tried, and then you can veer and try something else, right? Like I realized I didn't want to be a plastic surgeon, thought I wanted to own a spa, owned a spa, didn't like it. I didn't stay in it just because I'm like, oh, I decided I was going to do it, so I have to. Then I veered, into real estate, and although I still sell real estate now, I'm still doing other things. So it's not like, okay, now you pick real estate, you have to stay in it. You can still do whatever, lights you up, because we all say life's so short, but yet we stay in like toxic relationships, and we stay in jobs we don't like, and we stay in bodies that maybe not be the healthiest for us, and what have you, right? So you basically limit yourself. So whatever you believe you can do and be, you can. You're always going to have haters. There's always going to be people that don't believe in you, but that's like their issue and not yours. So whatever you believe truly in yourself is what you can accomplish. So
yes,
like
you're
my
right.
long-winded answer.
No, it's awesome. You said so many awesome things, but it really comes down to one of the main things is believing in yourself, because you can tell people all day long, you can talk about it, you can go look into it, but you have to take the risks. You still have to be able to feed yourself and pay your bills, but and how important is it to you? I was thinking what you were saying about working 2 jobs. I always worked 2 jobs, or I went to school and worked a full-time job, part-time job. I was paying for everything myself. So, but it's not an accident where you ended up. You don't accidentally end up a business owner and an entrepreneur and a person that has all their bills paid and money in the bank. That's not an accident. It's not an accident that you get what you want because you worked hard for it. But some people just don't want to work. They say they want something, and then they don't work for it. And you're like, all right, well, if it's not important to you and you don't want to do it from 5 to 10 every night after a full-time job, you probably just really don't want it right now, which is fine. But then just allow yourself to do it as a hobby, do your daytime thing, and have it, be good enough for you. And that's okay too. But if you really want more, you're going to have to go the extra mile or do the extra thing and build up to it. It's not just people always say like overnight success, and then they find out, later it's been 10 years. You see that with celebrities, musicians all the time. It's like, well, no, they've been doing it for 20 years, 10 years, whatever it is. It's never overnight.
Yeah.
They just weren't known until they were. And then it's like, here's what I've been doing behind the scenes for my entire life, Not an accident. Yeah.
And it's so good now, like with internet and whatever, because you can show stuff. Like, so I've only recently started to show things. I'm still not like the best at it, but like the amount of renovations I did and houses that I built and flips that I did, and I literally have no before and after pictures. I have nothing. Like there's the house and I can drive by it and be like, oh, I flipped that house and I, bought it for $220 and I sold it for $560 or whatever. But besides, like, I took no pictures, no videos, do you know what I mean? But now with the internet, you can track everything, right? So you can show your progress. And even if you buy something for $220 and you end up selling it for $200 and you didn't make any money, you can show your lesson, be like, hey, what did I do wrong? Okay, I blah, blah, blah. I hired my brother who screwed me over or charged me too much or whatever. Yeah. Or I this or I that, or I put in a $20,000 counter when I should have put in a $900 counter. Or, you know what I mean? Just even if you don't have the, okay, I succeeded at this, you can still show what happened, what you learned, and that you're trying again, that you're not giving up, right?
Oh, that's great. That's a great point. You're always learning something, even if it doesn't seem on the outside like a success. You can show someone else, and then you know what not to do the next time, so you can be more successful sooner.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully you learn after one time, because sometimes.
Yes. Yeah. Usually, almost never. It's one time, right? It would be awesome. Okay. So, final question for you: is there anything that you wished you had learned earlier in your career or in your life?
Like I said about the I was listening to people that probably weren't the best to listen to. Again, love them, but they weren't, being or in the position that I wanted to be in. And then also like living in the past, like sometimes I could think like, oh, and my high school friends or this happened, or maybe a parent's like thinking of their child's first steps. And so even if their past is not bad, like they could have had a horrific past or they could have had a good past, we shouldn't live in our past, because those good or bad things are not going to happen again, or at least hopefully if they're bad, they never happen again. But the good things are not going to, those exact things are not going to happen again. But then so many people live in the future. So they're like, when I make that $1 million or $10 million or whatever, or when I have that dream job or that dream family, then I'll be happy. Then they're not happy in the current day. Like they need to be happy in the current day. So I'm like a big supporter or whatever of like having the morning to yourself and having your night to yourself. So you have your gratitude or you have your meditation or whatever it is that you need, your exercise or what have you. So you can like be in control of your mind and your thoughts and stuff. Just because I feel like regardless of what coaches you have or who you have supporting you, in the end, it is your mind, right? So I definitely, in the past, like my mind wasn't like right on track where it needed to be. So I have to be conscious of that. And if I slip, I have to watch something funny on YouTube, or I have to put on my favorite songs or dance around or go for a walk or do something to be like, hey, you're off track. You need to focus yourself. And even if I can't get back on track at that moment, you know, take a breather, know that tomorrow will be better or whatever, and not like beat yourself up for it. And like, because sometimes people say awful things to us and we don't let them, right? Like hopefully we don't let them, but sometimes we say worse than what they're saying to us, to ourselves. And so we need to be aware of what we're saying to ourselves. So definitely being conscious of what you're saying to yourself, what others are saying to you, what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're reading. And yeah, just kind of the whole package, just being aware of everything, because it all affects it in such a way. Like I used to watch Netflix of certain things that were not the greatest, and I'd put my head down at night and I'd be, you know, because I'm watching this stuff that's really not healthy right before I go to bed. Like that's awful for me, as opposed to listening to something motivational or I am affirmations or journaling about everything I did great at that day and what I can do better the next day, you know?
So many, oh my gosh. Hopefully, maybe you should write another book. Maybe you have another book behind you, Kristin, with all these cool tips. Thank you. That was all awesome. I wanted to write down all of it, but I just wrote down some of it. You are in charge of what you put into your mind and your body, and no one else is going to be able to, no one could and can affect that if you don't let them. So I love that, because you're absolutely right. If you are responsible for everything that you consume, literally and figuratively, you're in charge of all of that. And then the outcome is so much better because you're choosing to put good things in and healthy things in. And I have a gratitude and meditation practice too. I wrote about that in my book. So all of the good things, like it sounds like you just have, well, you're doing a lot of things well, which is probably not an accident, which is probably why you're successful, because you're doing all the right things and telling yourself the right things. So kudos to you. What I want to say in my last thought is what you said about, this is like the biggest thing that's come from what you said. There's a million things that you said that are great today, but one of the things you said is about when you're stressed out and you get a call that this is burnt down or whatever, like you just sit with it for, of course who wouldn't be like, no one likes that news, but the fact that you say like, I cannot control that. Like I can't be the fireman to put that out. I can't be the plumber to fix that. Those aren't my skills. I'm not gonna be able to do anything about that. What can I do? I can start making phone calls. I can look at other resources. I can ask questions. It's such a great mindset. And it's the truth. No matter what situation you're in, there's certain things you're never gonna be able to do anything about, no matter how stressful or no matter what you wish you could do. You can't prevent that person from saying that bad thing. There's so much you can't control. So I love that you would just stop if you were out to dinner with your friends and say, okay, well, what can I do? I can do this right now. I'll feel better about it. And you can finish your sushi and then go on and figure out the rest. But getting up and freaking out, knowing that you can't solve those 2 or 3 things that are causing the problem, it's not going to help anyone.
You know, and like health-wise, we know so much comes from stress. So why would I put myself under stress? Like, yes, the stress came to me in whatever form, but doesn't mean I have to internalize it, right? I can deal with it, fix it, and that's it.
That is the best. You're right. That's one of the wisest things you've said. Just because you're stressed doesn't mean you have to internalize it. You didn't bring it on. Maybe you did, but usually you didn't bring it on. And so it doesn't have to come into you as stress. It can just be like, hey.
You have to be like the security guard or the border patrol or whoever, something guarding the gatekeeper or whatever of your mind, of your body, of your spirit, of your energy. Like I'm big on, like I can feel people's energy kind of, do you know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh, but you have to guard that because it'll come into you. Like I used to massage people and sometimes they'd be in a really bad place and I'd like leave the room and I'm like, oh, like you have to protect yourself from the energy and then go back to that, like you said, your meditation or whatever, so you can maybe decompress whatever you had to take in that day or what have you. So you don't go to sleep with it and then it snowballs into your next day, right?
Fill back up with that good stuff. I don't know if you're a Tony Robbins fan, but I just thought I put this out there. I started this new thing over the summer. It's called it's Tony Robbins priming meditation. It's on Instagram. It's like 15 minutes, but in the morning, it's basically just it's taped at one of his live events from months ago. But it's basically every day. I play it on Instagram a couple times a week. I do different things for meditation every day, but depending on what I'm feeling like doing. But it's basically just remembering all these awesome things that have happened to you.
Yeah.
And then he walks you through it. He's like, think about this, think about that, think about something you've been grateful for. He's like, and then think about something you want to have happen, and what would it feel like, and what would it sound like, and who would you be around, and then think about other people in your life and send them great energy. So it's all about energy. And you start your day with all this awesome, like, here's what I want to do and accomplish, and here's all the people around me that I want them to feel this love and this energy. And it's just such a wonderful way to wake up and start your day. I did that today, and it's just so much more fun than, this is what I haven't done for 3 years, watching the news or putting crappy stuff into your brain and feeling like shit because you started your day with all this negative stuff. Like, what's wrong with our world? Well, I don't want to think about that. I want to think about what's right and what I can change.
Yeah.
So, it's just a little tip. Yeah.
Yes, visualizations. And I have been to Tony's event.
You have? I've never been to one. I wanted to sign up for one, and then all this stuff happened, but I definitely need to get there.
Yeah, I was in Miami November of last year, and I know because it came up on my Facebook. It was like 1 year ago today, and I was like, whatever it was, 15,000 people at I don't remember what it's called, where Miami Heat plays. Yeah. And so the world's very different from then, but yeah.
Was it awesome?
It was. I love, because energy. I like anything live. Like I don't like sports, but I actually like live sporting events because I like the energy.
Yes.
So the energy is crazy in there, but doesn't mean just because that's not there that you can't still, do that energy yourself, like you said, through visualizations or what have you.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot. You could think, okay, I'm going to be in front of these 10,000 people, whether somebody wants to be a singer or whatever, but maybe it's just in front of their family having a difficult conversation, or it's, somebody that had some trauma in their past, and you sit down with them and talk with them and the person who, caused that trauma, and they like have a forgiveness and a release and whatever. It doesn't have to be because of 20,000 people or 10,000 people. Right.
It's awesome. Thank you, Kristin. I could talk to you all day. I loved all your great lessons, and I'm going to be playing this back. We're doing a best of coming up soon. I've done over 50 episodes now. And you're definitely going to be, some of your quotes are definitely going to be on there. So I so appreciate all your wisdom and energy, and it's been awesome talking to you, and I wish you the best, and I can't wait to hear more about your book and read it.
Thank you. You'll have to tell me when yours is done, and you said if you have any questions, just message me. I can help you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristin.
No worries. Have a great day.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye. Here's to great energy.
Yes. Cheers. I'd wink, but I can't wink.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person can live their lives happily, doing work they love.